everyone. The last major topic we're going to talk about today is what's called a direct interactor. Okay, so we've done ray interactors, and you guys know that basically the ray interactor is a sort of a laser beam, if you want to think of it like that kind of shoots out of the controller, right? And you guys have set that up. We've even set it up to come out of a model hand if you want to do that. But we can also do what's called a direct interactor. And what that means is that technically you can interact with a ray interactor nowhere near the object. Now that's useful if it's like teleporting across a scene, but maybe we want it to, maybe we want the world to feel a little more natural. Okay, so a direct interactor means that you literally with the controller have to like touch or hit the item. Okay, there's no ray that shoots out of it. Okay, so we're gonna set this up. So I've set up some of the groundwork for you. This particular world already has an XR origin. It already has locomotion. So I have, moving and teleportation if I want to do that, that sort of thing. I've already set up, we'll start with the right controller. And I've actually already, this is basically the same thing as the ray interactor, where we're using the tracked pose driver to basically track the hand, in this case, the right hand. And so the position, the rotation, and the tracking are all mapped to, the position, the track, the rotation and the tracking of, the controller there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is we are going to add, so easiest way to do this is I'm just going to go to XR and we're going to add a direct interactor. And I'm just going to put it as the child of the right controller here. Okay. And so this is what I'm doing is, see how this number, see how there's like that little kind of collider? We actually want it over here. So you could move it by hand. I'm actually just going to go here and reset it. And you can see it kind of, might be hard because there's so many icons here, but it's like, it's kind of nestled in with this, with the camera and the rig and everything. So essentially the idea is that you guys know that a collider collides with things, right? And so imagine like a collider that kind of moves through the air. And if the collider hits an object like this, it will interact with it. Okay. So what we're going to do, we have an interact. So just so you know, there's already a collider applied when you go through this way. If otherwise, you would have to add your own collider. Just make sure it's set to trigger. Otherwise, the code won't work essentially. And what I'm going to do is we want to make sure this is set up to the interaction manager for our scene. And then I'm going to set this to the right hand. Technically, you don't have to, but I think it's kind of useful. Okay. And then what we want to do is set up the select and the input. And I'm just going to click and I'm just going to do select. And we're going to use XR right select and then XR select value for the right hand. And I'll do the same for the activate. Let's click activate, right, activate, and then right value. Okay. And so we have that all. So this would work. Now, if I were to save it and preview it, the issue would be kind of that you'd be able to do it, but you wouldn't be able to tell what part of you is touching it. So usually what you kind of want to do is you want to add like a model. Okay. So I've already have a model here called hand. And what I'm actually just going to do is drag it to the child of this. Okay, so this is a model that I made, or I didn't make it, but I found it in Polypizza. And if you need to resize it, you might want to resize it in Blender or make it a prefab so you can resize it. You can resize it here. And so essentially, the main thing is that this has to sort of be over the model. Otherwise, in this case, the palm would be the only thing that works. So what I'm actually going to do is let's go over here to the edit collider. I'm just going to kind of set this up. So, you're just kind of playing around with this. This is another reason why it's kind of good to have the hand be kind of a child, because then you can kind of move it in relation to everything. Okay. All right. So I got that. And if I were to save it now, I'm going to have a hand that I can see and I can interact with things. Okay. A couple things you might want to do. Another thing that I find is very helpful is to turn on improve accuracy with Sphere Collider. I find that this usually makes it easier to interact with things. Okay. And I've done that. And now basically I'm going to kind of copy this and paste this over here. Okay. I'm going to turn this one off. The main thing is, so I did this so that I also get, basically I kind of copied everything over. I'm just going to set this to left, and I'm going to set this from the right controller to the left controller. So let's do select value, do kind of the same. Okay. And that should be good. The other thing is just, I kind of want this hand to match. It should, the hand is currently like, this is the right hand, and I need it like this. So what I'm actually going to do is, the easiest way is I'm just going to scale it in the X direction using a negative value, and that will flip it essentially. There you go. And that's kind of it. And then what should happen now is these already have interactables on them. I've actually set this so that on a hover for this one, it's going to change from gray to yellow. And then when I stop hovering, it should go back to gray. This one should be grabbable. And what this means is that when I select it, I'll just set it to near. The object is going to change color, and it should snap into the hand model, and you should be able to like move it around like that. Okay, so let's try this out. I'm going to save and go into the headset, and you guys should be able to see what I've done. And by the way, if you don't like these models, find a different model or make your own of a different hand. And it doesn't have to be just a hand. It could have been an entire arm. I'm just, the idea is it's kind of like these floating hands that are sort of meant to replicate the user's hands. Okay. All right, all, this is exercise 11, and I just wanted to show you. So I've added these low poly hands. I know they're not particularly great. But you're always welcome to model your own. Probably don't want something too high poly, otherwise it may slow down the world a little bit. But they give me a sense of where my hands are. So this is a direct interactor. So you'll notice I'm pushing the trigger and I'm not getting the ray like we normally do. And so what I'm going to do is come in here and I'm just going to put this slightly up, and boom. Okay, that's the hover effect. So by touching this, I'm changing it. This also works with the other hand, as you can see. This one is a grabbable one. So first of all, it is hoverable, but also I can grab it, and you can see it's locked to my hand here. I can also grab it with the other hand to do the same. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that, you're able to do this, and we're able to, play around with this. And so if you had something where, like, I don't know, maybe you wanted to have like a touch interface where you like have to go and touch things or interact with them, it also makes it a little more natural. Obviously in real life, there aren't, ray indicators that'll just grab stuff from a distance. So if you were doing something and you wanted to feel a little more natural, this is kind of more natural, right? And eventually I'll show you, we'll show you how to make sort of a kind of a, where we do a grab and like, because at the moment I'm grabbing, but it's not gripping. Eventually we'll kind of do that as well. The other problem, of course, is if you drop something like I did, I'm actually having to lean over here to grab it, which can be a little more of a pain. So that's something you have to think about too.
is making sure things are within the reach and the grabbable ability of the person, running the world and all that. Okay.
All right, so this is the last exercise. So in the last that we're going to do, in the last exercise, I showed you how we could set up a direct interactor. In this one, I kind of want to show you how you can kind of mix and match the two together. So I have a little, you know, not pedestal, like a shelf, and it has two objects on it, a green or a gray cube and a red cube. And I have two controllers kind of set up. The right controller I've set up to have a direct interactor. Okay, and I've set that all up where I have the select and the input. Go back to the last video if you want to kind of see that, or the earlier part of this video. And what I've done is I've set up a, in case you haven't already done this, I've set up a layer. So I went to the interaction layer mask and I added a layer here. Or I should say I added two layers, one called direct interactor and one called ray interactor. They don't have to be called that. It's just what I called it so I can remember it. And what I've done is I've set this under layer interaction max to direct interact. What this means is that this will only work or will only interact with objects that also are set to direct interact. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, let's say the rest of this is already set up. So let's just say that I only want to interact, do a direct touch to the red cube. What I'm going to do, this red cube already has a collider on it, and I'm going to add a grab interaction, and I'm going to set this to direct interactor. Okay. So what this means is that I have a ray interactor, but it's not going to work on this one, just the direct interactor. Okay. I'm going to click over here on the left controller, and I've actually already set up this for you. So I set up a layer called ray interactor, and I set up the ray interactor to only work with things called ray interactor. So what this means is that, the ray interactor will only work with objects that are also set to that. Okay. So what I've done is I've gone in here and I'm going to set the same thing, grab interactable, and let's set that to ray interactor. Set it to nothing first and then ray interactor. And so what this is going to allow me to do is when I save and I preview this, you'll see that the ray will only work with the gray cube and not the red one, because the gray one is set to ray interactor, not a direct interactor or mix. Mix would allow both, but I'm not going to do that. And this one will only allow for the direct interactor, not the ray interactor, because it's set also to direct interactor and not mixed. If this was set to mixed on the object, like this one, or everything, that means that both the interactors could work. So you have to decide if you want to be that specific or not. Okay, so I'm going to try this out and you'll be able to see that.
All right, everyone, this is exercise 12. I just wanted to show you. So my left hand has the ray indicator and my right hand has the direct interactor. This is the ray interactor. This is the direct interactor. And I've set it up that the object on the left, the gray cube, it won't interact with the directs. You see, I can't pick it up, but it will work with the ray. You can see the white and I can grab it. Okay. The opposite is true here, where I'm trying to use the ray. This one is set to direct interactor, but you can see I can do the hover effect here and I can actually grab it. Okay, so I'm just trying to show you that, if you want to be more specific about the way you work, you can set up, your interaction layers so that if you want something to only be usable with the direct interactor, maybe like, or if you want something to be, interactable like this, you can kind of, work on that. Okay.